Are you in need of a starter build and starter guide for Dune Awakening? I'm going to go over my top 3 classes, where yes, I did level through and play 3 different classes during a 2-week long beta, and I've clocked in almost 40 hours, where I've leveled each and every single one of them, past the starting area, and reached level 16 plus on all of them. I'll compare and contrast each and go over their starting abilities, as well as a full breakdown of their skill tree, which one I do think is best for each, and a full overview of those top 3. What's up world, it's Utopia back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things Dune Awakening. Now we have the SwordMaster class. Now again, I have this one at 16, so I'm gonna have it a few other levels, so you'll see that throughout the video. But we'll go over the skill tree here, everything we're taking, why we're taking it. I'll go over each ability, try to cover as many as I can, as I was time limited on this playtest. So first up here, you are going to start in the knee charge category, which is in the far right. And in order to take anything else, you actually do have to take another ability, but thankfully we actually do want stuff in here, which is the deflection. So we're gonna have to take deflection. You literally cannot get field medicine or anything in these other trees until you take a second ability. So we'll take deflection, we'll take reckless lunge, and we're gonna take confidence. These are gonna be great for damage mitigation. You can see when we level these up, we'll get 40%. Currently we have 30%. This one also has 10%, next level has 20%. These are going to be great for you, great damage reduction, great damage mitigation, and they're also a technique that you'll really utilize. Jumping over to our left tree, we are going to take blade damage, which is pretty simple there. We do want to increase our blade damage, and another technique here, which is going to give us a 30%, it says 40, that's for level 2. It's going to give us a 30% when we defeat an enemy with a blade that will empower your next attack with the blade for a brief period. Meaning that you will actually do additional damage there. So you'll do additional blade damage. Quite huge for SwordMaster. You really want this one. You could go into next up here. I do have 1 skill point left, but I'm not taking a long blade, or at least I haven't. I switched off of it. So if you are taking long blade damage, that could be something that you want to go into for that additional increased damage there. Jumping over to our right tree, we have knee charge. That's going to be a great ability for CC, the stunning abilities, which we also are grabbing one for that there. But we'll go first to the right. We'll take the hydrated stamina bonus, and then we'll take inspiration, which is going to help us increase our damage. As you see, the blade damage there is increased by 30%. It has a duration of 18 seconds. Doesn't cost much stamina. It does have a long cooldown time, but you'll also increase for your companions. So if you have any players with you, they'll also do increased melee damage. This is going to be really good if you have a full stack melee team, which I'll incorporate and talk about later with another one that you could use that does also take melee damage. That's a really good one here. So we're going to take inspiration for our second ability. And our last ability here, we're going to go through field medicine because we have to, but it isn't a bad bonus. Then we'll take crippling strike. Again, this is going to do a 50 damage, but it's also a stun attack to slow the enemies. For dashing, as you'll see there, it does a few extra things there. So it does damage. It's a stunning ability, does a low cut. This also does AoE stuns. Really cool ability here. Really like this one. So we have 2 stun mechanics here and a damage increase, which is going to help us in the field. And then next up here we have general conditioning, which is going to increase our max stamina. This is by 15. Right now it says again 20 because it's level 2. So I'll showcase off some of the abilities here for SwordMaster. First off, this knee charge is actually a decent movement ability. If you haven't seen here, we can do a little bit of nice movement there. And if you jump at the right time, you can actually get a little bit farther movement with it too. Actually not quite bad to use as a movement ability. Some classes do actually have that. This one isn't terrible. But we do want to proc our shield. You'll get this pretty early on to get a shield. I think you get it in the second area, or at least the start of the second area. Shield's really going to help us in melee combat, as we're not really going to be using our weapon as much, or at least even at all. We really don't need to. So at the start of combat, we really do want to proc our melee increase here, which is our C ability here. That's going to give us the additional damage there. And then we can go off and get a stun charge nearly instantly, where we can take down an enemy with 1 hit. As you see, we're in the second area doing it. We can also get a secondary stun charge here, and now we're kind of basically just doing a ton of damage as we just increase with each attack here. We'll get one of these guys, which will pop up, and these guys do have a shield just like us in combat, so we want to utilize that. We want to try to get away from that, but we will wait for your stun mechanic up here. We get a stun on them, then we can go ahead and get these stun through. 1 hit, 1 tap there. Very nice ability. And then we'll try to get that stunning attack or stunning lunge there that I kind of missed, but you'll get some damage mitigation there. As you see, we can kind of take down everything pretty fast without having to use a weapon, and we do get that bit of damage increase with that green on the sword there. You see, we took down enemies pretty fast here, even ones with shield, other than waiting for our stun mechanics. And even so, our knee charge stun mechanic, 1 hit, and our other stun mechanic, 1 hit. So it's very, very strong, especially with our inspire ability here that we can do additional damage. Here we have the Mentat class. This one is up there with SwordMaster, probably one of my favorites. Not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'll go over that at the very end. We'll start with the skill tree. Again, you do have to take another skill in order to access further into the skill tree. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to grab Shield Wall, although we're going to want it anyways. It is a decent ability here. We'll go up through Shield Wall, we'll grab Gravity Mine, and then we'll grab Anti-Gravity. Now there is another ability here, another class we're going to combine with this one that I will go over in a second here, and why this one is better. I will showcase it actually is a much larger area to take the mine than it is on the other class. After that, we'll push over here. You start with the Sentinel, so we'll go right up to range damage, and this is going to increase your range damage by 10%. Actually, I think it's 5%. Then you level it to level 2, and then it is 10%. We'll come over and take Garment Keeper, reduced durability loss. That's not really, we don't really want these. These are 10% and another 10% max durability loss. You probably really don't want to be eliminated, so more than likely this isn't going to matter to you, but we want this one, which is Exploit Weakness, which will allow you to increase your damage by 50%. So when you damage an unshielded enemy with a ranged weapon, the hit location becomes a weak point where you can then hit the target and increase the damage of subsequent attacks. This one is huge, 10-second cooldown there, or 10-second ability. This one is proccing constantly. This is a massive technique. Really the only one that we're taking on this class so far, and I really do think this is a good one. It increases our damage quite substantially, so I would take that. We're actually taking a second class here, and this one you can get really early on in the first zone. So we're up in here in the second zone. As you see, a storm came through, so some of the stuff is away, but you can actually get it in, I believe, this area. In fact, I'll pull up a map of where it showcases, but we're basically in town. It is at this trade post, and you can see that there is the class there, and learn that just by doing a simple quest. It doesn't take too long. You got to do some eliminations across the map. You go back and you unlock it. It is a fairly simple quest to unlock, so not too bad there. That is how you get this Trooper class. This is one of the classes I'm not really covering as it's too early on, and I don't think you should pick it as a starter class. If you want to go into it, you can. There's a lot of things in the Trooper class that I think are a little bit weak though, and I think you're more than likely going to want to start with Mentat and then go into Trooper, as that's going to have a lot of abilities for you. Next up here, we are going to take Explosive Grenade. Grenades are very strong. We do have to come through Circle Wire Claw. However, you start with this ability, so it doesn't cost any skill points. You're just going to get Explosive Grenade, which will cost 1. We'll then jump over here and get some range damage. Again, just like Mentat, you're probably going to want to go into both of these because these both provide range damage, and these skill trees here, range damage here, and range damage here. This one's 5%. Level 2 will grant you 10%. Now jumping over to our main abilities, we are taking the Sentinel. We're also taking Explosive Grenade and then Anti-Mine. Now we have the combat section for the Mentat. Of course, we're going to be using Sentinel, Grenade, and the Mine here. So you'll see we'll utilize this pretty well. I don't even have a shield on this guy, as there's really no need. He's mostly just a run and gun. So we'll come in here, we'll take out a few enemies. We'll take this guy out pretty quickly, pretty fast. So he's down. Let me take out this guy. And if we have any larger, we can throw a grenade at that one. Now we do have one of these guys who is going to be shielded. We can throw down this and this, which is our mine, and we can actually slow him down. So I'm going a bit slower here so you can see what happens here. Now he cannot attack me, and he's just getting hit by my turret. And this is the one ability in the game that actually can remove the shield, and you see it just takes him down just like that. Really cool there. Now we can't move at all. That's the only thing about this ability. Now, so one of the things that I actually hope they do change and maintain on that. So we'll throw down another turret here. This one's going to really help with this guy. He's going to go down pretty fast with our turret like that, and then we have one behind us. Unfortunately, he's not being detected, but he'll go down pretty fast too. You see this guy does take a lot of damage, so you're probably going to want to take more damage mitigation than me. I still just have a still suit on, and I don't even have all the equipment on it, as I was just trying to get these classes ready to go. But this guy, he's really strong. You're probably going to want to take more armor than still suit, although I do recommend still suit on most classes. We didn't use our ult there, as you saw. We took down these guys really fast. We took down the heavy super fast, if you see, compared to the other classes. He just drops with the turret. You saw this is basically the only class that can take down a shield enemy with gunfire. It just takes way too long to take off their shield. It's just not even worth it to do it with a gun. It essentially doesn't work. And then also poison damage. The reason why we didn't take poison damage on this class is that poison damage, essentially, you'll see you could throw down 3, 4, 5 times of poison. They are not going to lose their shield, or it's not even going to damage them enough to take them down. I hope they fix poison. Maybe they add some more poison damage later on, or maybe you really just need to spec heavy into it, but I could not get it to work. It just did absolutely nothing, and I don't think it's worth it at all to take poison right now. Maybe in PvP it's probably going to be super strong, but as of right now in PvE, it seems like it almost doesn't work, or it's just not very strong as it doesn't help with shields. But the turret is just incredible. This is such a good spec here, hoping they don't nerf this thing. It is super strong. And you see that our mine does such good with slowing down time and stopping everything. They literally can't even do anything, so it's like a stun mechanic, and it is huge. You can see this comparative. Now, I told you I would talk about why I take the mine over the one in the trooper class. It's the reason why is because the one in the trooper class is actually really small compared to this one. So the mine is a lot bigger, and you also can set it down and run away from it if you want to. You can get out of it. And there's another ability with the activated mine that I think will play into it. Eventually, I didn't have enough skill points there, but eventually you can get this thing called damage from above, or damage while suspended, which is a 25% increase while you are suspended. And I do believe that mine, when you are kind of floating in that, I do believe that counts as you being suspended in the air. So you'll see that really quickly here. Since our feet are off the ground, I actually do believe this counts, but the reason why I didn't take it is I wasn't for sure, and I also ran out of skill points even though we're level 17. It might be something you want to take before explosive grenades. You could probably go into here, although everything is really utilized in this, at least for this stuff, and so it's kind of hard to take that if you wanted to, especially this one's just super strong, and our anti-grab mine we kind of need to take. So unfortunately, you'd have to kind of get rid of this one and maybe not take this range damage, and then you could go into here and take this right away. That might be the play if you do want that because you are floating. Here we have Bene Gesserit. I might be pronouncing this incorrect, but it is a pretty weird word here. This class is a bit of a mixed bag here. Now, I'll go over why and all the details there of why I kind of recommend certain things for this class. You'll see it was my main in the playthrough, at least when I first was starting. This was the first class I chose, so this one is a lot higher in level. But we'll go over all the details, what we're kind of mixing in with other classes, and our skill tree there. So first off, we're going to start with the ability Compel. This one I actually do use, so we'll start here. In order to grab anything else, we actually do have to grab another ability. I recommend Bindu Sprint. This one is great for traversal. I'll showcase it off a little bit. It is fantastic to move around with this ability, so I really like this one. If you are a speed runner, this might be a class that you want to take at the beginning, only to speed run, at least at the beginning, because of how much the movement is. But there are other classes and other things that you can do with other classes that I kind of recommend not taking that for that reason. We'll go over that again in a bit. Next up here, we'll go through Ignore. This ability, not very good. We're not going to utilize it. It's because somehow the opponents actually do register you. It says you're completely invisible, but they still dodge your attacks in melee. I'm not sure if that's a bug, but right now, Ignore is just not in a good place. If they do fix this, you can then take it. You'll go over here, you want to take rapid registers. This is going to let you use your voices very fast, as we are taking 2 here, so the voice channel time will decrease by 30%, so we want that as a technique. We'll go over here, we'll take voice training, which is going to knock our ability cooldown by 8%, it says 16, but that's because level 2. Then we'll jump over here, we'll take stop. We also are going to use this ability, really good AoE ability to stop, make enemies basically not be able to perform anything. It essentially is the same as Invis, but just an AoE one, so it's a lot better. We are taking Bindu Sprint, as we could swap it out for the movement. We also want to take Manipulate Instability. That's going to give our instability damage. Believe this is a 7.5% increase. You see level 2 is 15%, so that one is there. Does a little bit of decent damage when we do strike a vulnerability there. Then we also take Short Blade damage. That's going to give us, again, I believe it's 7.5 or maybe it's 8%. Short blade damage, you see level 2 is 15. We'll go over here, we'll take this blade damage, which will increase it by 5%. Level 2, 10% says there. And then we also want Weirding Step. This ability is really cool when it actually works. So I'll showcase why it's a little bit goofy with this one. Hopefully they do fix that. I'm sure they will since it's the preview event. I'm sure through much more testing they'll figure it out. But Weirding Step is a really, really cool one. And this one you probably will use with other classes. Moving on to our right skill tree here, we do have a passive, which is Recovery. Then we're going to go into this technique, Trauma Recovery. The reason why we want to go through all of these is for this last technique here, which we have Vitality, and then we'll take the Reduce Poise damage. Now, you could swap these out for this one here, which we will do now. I'm actually not sure why I had that one on. I think it's because I reskilled the skill tree there, but we'll go into our techniques, and then we can swap here to our techniques here. We'll put Prana, Bindu, or Stability here, which will reduce our Poise damage. Again, I believe this is around 17, 15%, or maybe it's 12%, but it is pretty good there. Nice little technique. It's going to reduce that in case we are getting attacked. You probably will want to utilize that. There's also some stuff here that's really good on this class, like Sunstrike Rate, which is really good. There's Healing Effectiveness, and there's also some other things here. Like this one's going to be really good for PvP, I believe. It's Metabolize Poison. Maybe even later on. There's not a lot of poison damage going out right now. This is going to be really good. Will make you invulnerable to poison damage. This might be a class that you're probably going to have to take for PvP or just later on. We are taking one more thing here, which is trooper, and we're going in here and taking range damage, and then we're also increasing our body damage. Now you could swap this out for anything that you think would be better, which more than likely instability damage you'll probably want to swap out here. I do take more obviously than techniques than we need, but that's just because there are different situations for different things here. So we'll swap out and we'll take this one, which will increase our body damage as we're not really utilizing it. But again, there's just a mixed batch there. Trying to make this class work as best as possible. I do believe, and my thoughts on it are honestly one of the more weaker classes. You'll see why when we do the combat section. So going over the combat section here and what we can utilize for abilities, of course, first off, we do want to proc our shield. That's going to help us out here and give us some sustained or damage mitigation. We'll go in here and we could take out this first guy or second guy. And so we'll get like an AoE stun here with both of these so they can take them down. Actually, it didn't get that guy, but that's okay. So we can use Wording Step on this one, pop behind him, and he won't even know. Now we're behind him. We can take this. And if we need to, we can pop the stun on this one. And we can come back to this guy. Gets our sustained damage here. This class is all about basically stunning and trying to get as much damage as you can. It really is a bit difficult to fight more than one enemy on this class, at least if you don't have certain sustainability with it. You see, it takes quite a long time to actually take this guy down. Unfortunately, it is just a really long class, and we really don't want to use our weapon here. Again, we'll get our AoE stun, which will help. We'll use wording on this one over here, and as you see, it did bug out there, unfortunately, so that's why that ability is does have its issues. We're just trying to get as many stuns out as we can. Hopefully we don't get our shield procced here. We'll stun that one if we can, bring him close. And we finally took down that one, and then we can get this one down, although now we have a shield guy on us. Hopefully we can get this one down in time. We can. Now we get that one down. And then we're going to try to get a stun ability on this one. We'll get Wording Step. We'll get a bit of a stun on him. And somehow we missed because the ability is just a little bit weird. They do need to fix that one. If they fix that, this class could feel good with all these stun abilities. But you see, that's why this one is more than likely one of the weaker classes. It does have a ton of stun mechanics, though, so it's really good utilization for teammates. If you wanted to have this as a support class, you could, but just by itself, it's just not very strong, and I wouldn't recommend taking this one unless you are playing with friends and you want to get constant stuns out. It just is not very good against a lot of enemies, and you're going to be encountering groups of enemies more so. As you can see, even here we have a set of 4. We're going to be encountering more than just one at all times, so it is a bit rough there aside from that movement ability. Now there are 2 more classes that I didn't talk about and go over. That's because it's the Trooper class, and because you can get Trooper really easy right here at this vendor here. He is just available here to get the Griffin Reach trade post. Not sure why it's not showing it, but he basically is right here, and you have to do a simple, it's one quest line, and you unlock the Trooper class. So I wouldn't take this one as a starter, as you already unlock it really early. This is like super early. I'm talking about like level 10 or 9 even that you unlock Trooper. So this is something I wouldn't recommend, as you could get a free ability if you spec into another class, and then you could go Trooper if you wanted to eventually, but I wouldn't start with it. So I would start with the other classes first, then go into Trooper if you wanted to, although Trooper just lacks way too much in my opinion. Doesn't have the shield damage or sustainability that Mentat does, which I think is what you would do. Rather than start with Trooper, you would start with Mentat, then go into Trooper as I am now. So I would recommend that. There also is Planetologist. You can earn this one super easy too, but this one's Explorer stuff and increasing your yield when looting things, power regeneration, there's some color yield, mining yields, things of that nature. This is not an ability class. There's one ability here, which is the Suspensor Pad. I tried to make this one work, as it does shoot you up in the air, but it kind of launches you too far, so that damage while suspended isn't going to work with it very well. It's just to get to higher places. If you're not taking this ability, which I think everybody's going to take anyways, is going to make you float and kind of go above. So I think everybody's going to take that one anyways, rather than taking the Suspensor Pod, but you could get it later on for exploring purposes. That should cover for these starter 3 classes there, all their combat, all their abilities that you can utilize at the very beginning especially, and if you are even low level 15, this is a great starter guide for the beginning course of things, as all of these are going to do really good damage, aside from maybe the Bene, which I would really recommend not taking unless you wanted to speed run very fast. Overall though, it should about cover for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and until the next one. Deuces!